Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is my review of Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. This movie came out in 1991. It was a super flop, and it was just one of these movies that it never had a chance. As soon as the name was given out, it's kind of hard to describe if you're, let's say, below 35 or so, but it was a really harsh realm back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Things started to chill out. Like once you became famous for something, you were only allowed to do that. So Don Johnson not being Sonny Crockett was an automatic rejection for everything. And then there was like this weird, I used to call it the sacrificial lamb situation where movies that were really nothing wrong with them, or they were actually just fine, fun movies, were like offered on the sacrificial altar of Hollywood. You got Hudson Hawk, Last Action Hero, and this one, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. So this came out right as I was turning 18. I think it was in the theaters for 2 weeks. And I remember, just like everyone else, I had this very strong negative reaction. I was like, no, this is stupid. This is no, no, no. And then sometime like maybe sometime way later in the 90s, I caught it on the Late Late Show, as they used to say when they would run random movies at like 2 a.m. And I didn't catch all of it. I think I got maybe like the second half, but it seemed like a really fun movie. So I've always had it kind of in my head to go watch this. And then 20 years later, I did. So I just, in my recommendations on YouTube, Joe Blow, movie critic, had reviewed it, I guess, like last December, and he was saying it was pretty solid. And I remembered my positive memories of it, and I watched it, and it was freaking awesome. How would I describe this? If your dad and your stepdad somehow stopped beefing and became friends, this is the movie they would make. Like, it's not just the quintessential guy movie. I would call Bad Boys 2 the quintessential guy movie, but I would basically call this like the quintessential dad action movie. It's they do kind of a well. I went to go to the Wikipedia because usually they have about pre-production and where the movie came from, and since it was just a super flop, they just gave the plot and the bad box office, and that is it. I'm going to guess this is one of those scripts that had rolled around in Hollywood for a couple years and had some good buzz, but it never quite got filmed. And then when they did, the day before they started funding or filming, they lost like half of their budget. So weirdly enough, this is a sci-fi movie. It's just a sci-fi movie that seems to forget it's a sci-fi movie 5 minutes in. It's set in 1996, even though it was released in 1991. And there's nothing really like sci-fi and like tech. The only difference is it's kind of a more lawless version of America. And there's some really like, they show gas as $3.99, and that's supposed to like make the 1991 audience like gasp and then laugh. Oh my gosh, gasoline $3.99. Geez, it's actually down to like $1.25. It's almost at 1991 prices again. And the other one, and this used to happen a lot in 1990s movies, not so much in the last 20 years, but there would be all of these jokes about like LA neighborhoods and culture, and it was not common knowledge. Like, I think it's fairly common knowledge just from a million movies and TV shows to kind of know all the different neighborhoods of, or not all of them, but a lot of them, you know what I mean? Like, I think the average person could say Hell's Kitchen is in Manhattan, and they could say Greenwich Village is in Manhattan and Soho. They would understand that. But when you say Burbank to me, I have no idea. All I know is, if I remember correctly, like a lot of the game shows were filmed in Burbank. So at one point they're like, this guy who hasn't been in California for a couple of years, he comes back and his friend's like, can you believe it? And then they see a Concorde like landing past downtown LA. He goes, they turned Burbank into an airport. And then they do a pause like you're supposed to go, Burbank? an airport. That's hilarious. But I was just, I literally have no idea. I think it's north-ish. The north. I don't know. I have no idea at all. But anyway, so it's about Mickey Rourke is Harley Davidson, and Don Johnson is the Marlboro Man. There are other characters who have kind of like they have like Virginia Slim. They don't make a big deal about it in the movie. Like I'm saying, I think this was more of like a Hudson Hawk style, like really really high toned action comedy. And then at the last moment, they're like, "Hey, let's just make it a buddy movie," you know. So it's set in the 5 years in the future, basically for almost no reason. It could have just been set in the same, you know, movie Los Angeles that Lethal Weapon was set in. I mean, people are always just committing major crimes, and then like two cop cars show up. But anyway, they're buddies. One is a cowboy, one is a biker, and it's just it's hard to describe. You really just have to experience it. It is incredibly fun. It's got that classic like late 80s 90s thing where you know that little reference or something that happens in the second scene that'll have the payoff in the second to last scene. And boy, yeah, it's really something you have to experience. I mean, if I describe the plot, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man have some buddies who run a bar. The buddies have their it sounds like I'm making it up. The buddies' rent gets raised, so they go to rob a bank to pay for it, but then they end up robbing a armored car, and it has drugs in it. And there's like these bad guys who look like they're out of the Matrix. Actually, they don't look like they're out of the Matrix. They look like they're the programmer from Grandma's Boy. The guy who said he was going to he was thinking about getting metal legs. It's a risky operation. They kind of look like that. They got Daniel Baldwin. I would not. He's the fat one. He's the one everyone says the fat Baldwin, and Tom Sizemore, skinny. Before he got, wait for it, here it comes. Before he got heftier. You thought I was gonna say more size, didn't you? But anyway. Almost every second of this movie is incredibly entertaining, fun, and stupid in the best way. The funny thing is, they talk about how it lost so much money. It looks like it was made for $1.50. Like I said, they establish a pseudo sci-fi tone in the beginning, and then do nothing with it. At several points, they'll go to someone's house, and how do I explain this? They always do this thing where people are poor and they live in these like really giant houses, you know, in New York and LA. It happens in movies and TV all the time. But it's not about the size or, you know, the realistic expense about that place. It's about matching the tone. You know what I mean? So you're going to have that, you know, the cool LA detective, and he has beachfront property, and like that he would have to be like freaking worth $20 million to live there. But whatever, you're establishing it is cool. It matches the character. These are just like regular houses and condos. Like you really got to see it. At one point, there's this big scene just set in a carport of this very, very modest, you know, middle class, duplex subdivision, and you're just like, do they? I even noticed a bunch of stuff. Like, have you ever noticed in movies things are kind of ideal? Like somebody will flip someone a coin and then they'll catch it. And if they miss it, it's, you know, they'll kind of overplay missing it. And it's in the script. Like in this one, you'll see someone like duck under something, and then their hat will like caught on like the bottom of an airplane wing, and then it'll kind of tip on their head, and then they'll just fix it. And I'm like, it feels like this in any other movie, they would redo that take. You know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, I mean, it doesn't really, it was like, it's kind of distracting. At one point, like, there's a bit where Don Johnson has to keep taping up his boot, and then he like drops the tape, and then he fumbles for it, and he gets it, and then he keeps. I was like, that's not in the script. That's just a bad take that they should have redone. Like I said, it's very endearing, weird, silly, fun, awesome, cool. I absolutely love it. I rented it for sometimes they're like rent for 24 hours, rent for 48 hours. Oh man, I was gonna because the Critical Drinker did a video on uh, Men in Black International, and it sounded pretty cringy. I was gonna roast it. It's only available to buy. Like you have no options to stream it. I think there's like if you have a Stars membership, but like I was like, what the hell, really? Sometimes when you rent something, it's for 24 hours. This one's for 48. Honestly, I can totally see me watching this whole thing tomorrow. It was just so much fun. So go check it out. I rented it on Amazon Prime Video, and then I Googled it, and I guess one of the channels it actually comes with it. I missed out on that. Usually Amazon Prime will tell you like, hey, this one's available if you have Stars and for $5.99, like you know what I mean. So go check it out. Highly recommended. Watch it with your dad and your stepdad after they kind of stop beefing for 10 to 15, 20, 25 years. Anyway, thanks for watching. And I keep saying I'm going to watch Aliens, but things just keep popping up. Thanks for watching. Bye.